My name is Palak and I'm MicroLoan's Trust and Foundations Manager. This year, the impact of the pandemic has seen gender poverty gap widen, affecting women and girls disproportionately. MicroLoan's Empower Her campaign is aiming to reach 50,000 women by the end of the year to help them take their first steps out of poverty. To provide you with some insight into our work, I would like to introduce Jack Ngoma, the CEO of MicroLoan Zambia. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Palak.
So let's get right into it, because I think what we have to discuss today is going to be really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you came to join MicroLoan?
Well, thank you very much for having me on this interview, Palak. My name is Jack Ngoma. As you have mentioned, I'm the CEO for MicroLoan Foundation Zambia. I joined MicroLoan in 2009 as finance manager, and in 2013 and 2014, I moved to Malawi, where I worked in similar capacity, and then later on I came back as a chief financial officer. In 2018, I was appointed as the CEO for Zambia, which brings us to where we are today. I think that's about me.
Okay, wow. So quite a while then with MicroLoan.
Yes, it has been, yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what the situation in Zambia is like at the moment, and what sort of impact the pandemic has had on our beneficiaries?
Yeah, so well, in terms of the number of cases, I'm glad to say that in the recent few weeks, we're beginning to see an improvement. And as a result, certain aspects of our society is beginning to resume some kind of normal. For example, schools have recently opened, which is a very good thing. However, in terms of livelihoods, the pandemic has had a very big impact, especially for women and children in rural areas. During this period of the pandemic, we have seen a lot of people losing income-generating activities. And it seems this burden is coming down to women who have to now find alternative means of creating an income for families. And this is where MicroLoan Foundation comes in. We provide small loans to support businesses so that women can go in and help families with a livelihood. You might be interested to know that during this period of the pandemic, as MicroLoan Foundation, we have increased the number of our beneficiaries from about 16,000 to 20,000 to try and help as many women as we can. So in a very simple way, the pandemic has been very devastating on most of our people.
So, of course, one of the areas really severely affected was the district of Kafue, where MicroLoan has a branch. Can you tell us a little bit more about what happened when the first few cases were reported there, and MicroLoan's response to that?
Yes, you're right. So Kafue is one of the small districts in Zambia where MLF is working. The district became a hotspot for the pandemic around about May. This forced the government to implement a complete shutdown to allow for disinfection of public places and also to do contact tracing for some of the people that were suspected to have come into contact with COVID-19 patients. I must mention that one of our clients had their mother die as a result of COVID-19 at the time. And because she had come into contact with our staff, we were forced to close our branch to allow for self-isolation of our staff and also to allow them to go for testing. And luckily, the results came out negative. Most of the businesses during that time had to close, and we're no longer able to, for some of our clients, they were no longer able to meet their loan obligations. And as an organization, we had to look for means and ways to ensure that we continue supporting them. So some of the things that we have done so far is to renegotiate the loan terms. For example, we've now asked some of our clients to begin to make smaller payments than their normal loans so that they can spend some of their money to support their businesses. But in other cases, we've actually had to just write off the loans, especially where it is clear that the client cannot continue paying because of the impact of the COVID-19. The period has been very challenging and very, very difficult for most of our clients and beneficiaries that are working there.
How does that help them in sort of over the space of the time that they are making smaller payments, do you think?
Well, I think that if especially for some of the beneficiaries who we have talked to, one of the bigger challenges they have is that they do really want to continue running their businesses. But if they have to make a payment on the loan at the same time, then it just becomes very hard for them to maintain any profit in the business. So one of the ways that we can help with MicroLoan is to ensure that they don't spend so much on paying the loan, but they spend more on putting back into their businesses. And this is exactly what the small installment or the renegotiated loan terms mean for the beneficiary. They get a bigger part of the loan and invest it in the business, but they only make smaller contribution to ensure that the loan itself over time keeps reducing.
Great. And how do you think that CAFWay, our branch and our beneficiaries in the district, how are they coping now, a few months after all of this happened?
So like I've mentioned already, during the period of the COVID-19, as MicroLoan Foundation, we've actually stepped up our efforts to try and reach out even to more beneficiaries. So over this period, the number of beneficiaries has increased because of those deliberate efforts for us to target more people. And so CAFWay is one of the areas where we have increased the number of beneficiaries despite the pandemic. And like I've already mentioned, it is also another area where we have had to go in and actually write off some loans for those beneficiaries that have been adversely affected and cannot recover from their losses.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's great that, reaching more people and everything across the year as well is important, especially at a time like this. Going back a little bit further, you mentioned earlier that you've been with MicroLoan since 2009, which is a substantial time to be with an organization. So you've kind of seen a lot of development of the organization over the years. What would you say, which particular development, in your opinion, has made the greatest impact on women, on our beneficiaries?
So I think from my side, one of the big impact has been the introduction of mobile banking options for our clients. In 2017, with the help of other partners, we started implementing mobile banking options. And what this means is that we as an institution can now work in more remote rural areas that otherwise would not have to work. We are now able to ensure that the clients are not spending a lot of time walking from their villages into areas where they can access the money. In the comfort of their homes, using the mobile technology, we are able to make our beneficiaries receive the loans, and also the beneficiaries themselves are able to pay MicroLoan back without having to go into a physical MicroLoan presence. This, for me, has been the single most development that I think has made the most benefit to our beneficiary. So it does not only allow for the women to receive loans from MicroLoan, but it allows the women to also receive other services. For example, using a mobile phone, they're now able to make payments, for example, for schools. And sometimes they can access information on agriculture. So we now doing beyond just giving them the loans. These are tools for them that they can use for a broader range of things to improve their livelihoods.
So going on from that a little bit, how do you feel MicroLoan is different to other microfinance organizations in Zambia?
Well, firstly, because MicroLoan focuses on women, and because women are mostly the ones impacted and are really the face of poverty in most of the rural areas. But secondly, because we focus on training, from onboarding of new beneficiaries through the cycle of the loan. We are there to support our beneficiaries with training to ensure that they can manage their businesses successfully. This increases the chances of success for most of the beneficiaries that we're working with. So I feel this is what really makes us very, very different in terms of what other competitors are doing. But I think also beyond those two things, our very rural-focused approach means that we are really reaching out to the people that really need to be assisted. And these are the people that are in the rural areas. So those things, I think, make us very different.
Yeah, I think so too. Great, thank you so much for your time, Jack. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak to people a little bit about what you do, and also our operations in Zambia and the impact that the pandemic has been having, is currently having on our operations and especially on our beneficiaries as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, and look forward for another future discussion.
Sure.